All right, what's up, everybody? Hope you had a great holiday weekend. It's Sunday afternoon, so time to kind of gear up and get ready for the week ahead. So let's jump into some charts. Here I got the Qs up. We ended up having a pretty good week last week. I got a nice bounce off this 560 area and closed pretty strong on Friday in between the 10 and 20 day. So that's a better look than we had the week before. I think markets are starting to kind of digest the news. All the headlines coming out from Iran, and it's starting to behave a little bit better. So we'll see how the futures want to open up here in a couple hours and kind of check out the news flow overnight into tomorrow and see, what the week has in store to kick off Monday. I did buy some of this. I was talking about this last week. I did buy some Qs on this day as we gapped down through the 10% correction area. I got some Qs around 570. Was looking to add if we got closer to the 15% correction, anywhere south of 550, I probably would have added to the position. Obviously, we haven't gotten there yet. It could still happen. But we did get a nice bounce and currently looking a little bit better. So we'll see if the Qs want to hang tight and make a push higher, or if we want to consolidate and then make another leg lower, which, obviously I'll be watching for to see if we can get close to that area to add to the position. So that was the Qs. Obviously, 560, a big area we want to keep tabs on over the coming weeks and see if that can hold again if we try and retest it or break lower. But that will be a key area going forward. Now, some names I like for this week. I wanted to go over Meta real quick. This was, if you're a day trader, cash flow trader, this should have been on your watch list. I talked about it in my watch list last week. Just a huge extended move. Obviously, we had a big earnings fail here. It gapped higher, sold off, and then we kind of consolidated before getting a really big break lower. On the trial headlines, really set this thing off where we had really accelerated, moved lower, and we came into Monday, I believe it was this day, where we had the gap up here that you could have been buying into weakness. And then the next day we got really good follow through, made it back to the 10-day, and now we're starting to consolidate. So I just wanted to follow up on this play. Really good setup. These are the moves I like to look for when trying to play mean reversions. I want to see these big accelerated moves. We get away from the 10 and 20 day. We start getting oversold on the RSI, and we're getting a lot of volume. Okay, so all these things started to line up, and we ended up getting a really nice bounce to start last week. All right, so we'll see if we get some follow through. I don't have any meta right now. I just wanted to follow up on this trade. We'll see how this wants to set up. I don't really have any interest in it right here yet. Maybe if we come down, put in a higher low, maybe that sets up for another bounce play that will get us back above the 10 and 20 day. So that could be something that sets up later on in the week, which I'll keep tabs on. Another name, Apple, has been holding in very well relative to everything that's going on. We had a little baby dip here that got bought up off some support. And then Thursday and Friday, we had some nice closes above the 10 and 20 day. And now you have the 10-day curling back higher. Really strong close on Friday. We start to break out of this little wedge pattern here. This could be a nice push higher up, maybe to 260 this week. So that's something I'll be looking for. Basically through like 256-ish is a good area. What was that? 256.13 was Friday's high, and it kind of lines up with Thursday's high too. So obviously a little area of resistance there. Push through that. I like that for a leg higher. Just a lot of relative strength right now on Apple. So we'll see if this can give us a leg higher coming into earlier this week. So that is a name I do like. AMD, great move on Friday. Had a totally engulfed Thursday's price action here. Closed very strong. There's a huge level here at 220. You can see all the tests here. We broke it, failed here, and now we're coming back into it. So if we can get through 220 on some volume, I like this for a gap fill bucket back into this 234 area. So we have a real nice window to try and catch a good move on this. Now, we did have a big wide range day on Friday, so it may be a little bit tougher to get a big wide range follow through. Usually after these days, we'll get a little bit of consolidation, which actually could set up nice if we can get some high and tight price action and then a breakthrough 220, have a nice base here just below for it to break out of. So AMD will definitely be on my radar this week as well. In fact, I'm going to put a little alert here. So if this starts to push higher at some point this week, I'll get alerted, and ideally want to see this pushing through 220 on some volume to get involved. So that's a nice look I like there. AAOI, these optical names have been really strong, just been having some huge moves. And this one's starting to put in a really nice flagging pattern. So something I definitely want to keep tabs on as well. A ton of relative strength in this sector. I kind of want to see this have a couple of days of consolidation. We had this big reclaim of the 10 and 20 day wide range day, lots of volume, has been holding really well. If we can get a couple of days of sideways action, this could set up for a great breakout of this base flag that's been setting up over the last month or so. So this will be on my radar. I do want to see this kind of set up a little bit better, maybe obviously some consolidation days. I wouldn't be chasing this through the trend line here tomorrow. It's just be a little too stretched for me. I'd rather see this get a little bit tighter and have a nice base to break out through the trend line, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, later in the week. But this will be on my radar. I like this setup. I like this sector. It's been holding in really well. I think we can get another big leg out of this. An oil name, XOM. This had obviously a big run here following the Venezuela stuff, and it's had multiple legs now. And then last week, if we look at the weekly, we had a big reversal candle here with really solid volume. And now we're setting up with a couple days below the 10-day. We're sitting right on the 20-day. If this wants to pull in, the 159.50 area looks really good for another leg lower if this wants to soften up some more. We have 156 area as a pivot, and then down here at 152. Not my favorite play, but this is a decent setup just given how big the move has been. Multiple legs, got a little extended, and we had a big reversal week last week. So I could see this setting up for maybe another leg lower to try and take advantage of. So I'll be watching that as well coming into tomorrow. And another name kind of similar to Meta, a little bit more, actually a lot more beat down than Meta. It's been in this huge trend lower. And then it just had earnings that were not favorable, and it got hit really hard, was weak on the open, and then we got another gap down the following day where we put in a little reversal candle. This is very stretched. We're very far away from the 10 and 20 day, very oversold on the RSI. I like this for a bounce play. This will be something I'll be watching for tomorrow, coming through, if we can make a turn through Friday's highs at 44.30, 44.34, could easily make another leg back up to 46.83 and then maybe work itself into the gap and up into the 10-day. But just a very overstretched name. I like this a lot for a mean reversion setup, similar to Meta, where we got extended. We had the downtrend, the gap down, and the accelerated days. And then we put a nice little reversal candle here. So this will be one I'll probably be watching tomorrow morning coming into Monday and kind of see how this wants to set up. Obviously, this will depend a lot too on how we're looking to open. If if things are looking to gap up a lot, I'm not going to chase this higher. I'd rather let it set up a little bit more. Maybe some tighter days just underneath this 46.83, and then they'll push through that. But I don't want to be chasing a big gap and then a push to this level. I think that could set up for a good failed break into the gap. So we'll just see how it wants to set up, but I do like this. And so we'll see what goes on here. We got, what time is it? Yeah, so it's 5 o'clock. Got about an hour till the futures open, and we'll see how they want to set up for Monday coming in tomorrow. But those are really the names that are on my radar for this week so far. I really like Nike. The XOM setup I think is really good as well for a bigger pullback after that huge run it's had. And then AMD looks good. Apple looks good for nice and tight here with all that relative strength. So some names to look at, some possibilities, but a lot will depend on how the futures play out and then what happens overnight. Obviously, tons of headlines just keep coming out with different updates in the war. So we'll have to keep track of that. We'll also have to keep track of what oil is going to do. Was able to hold pretty well on this huge gap. And, some of the headlines coming out with some of the threats from Iran, we could probably see this higher. And obviously the higher and longer oil stays at these elevated prices, it's going to put pressure on the markets. And it's, over the overall global economy is going to suffer from these super high prices in oil. So once we can get this tamed down and oil prices back into a better range, it will really help the markets out overall. So we'll definitely need to be keeping tabs on oil throughout this entire conflict. But I'd imagine that we see higher prices before we peak out, over the coming weeks and maybe months. All right, so that's what I got for you guys coming into tomorrow. I'll see you in the room, and we'll see what's kicking tomorrow morning with headlines and what's setting up for us. All right, hope you all had a great weekend. I will catch you in the room tomorrow morning.